So, like I said, today we're going to be talking about well-being of care workers. So we are from Skills for Care. So I'm just going to start by introducing myself. So my name's Stacey. I'm a locality manager in the Marvellous Midlands team. So I cover Leicester, Leicestershire, Rutland and Northamptonshire. And it's an absolute joy to be here this morning. Thank you so much for inviting us. So I'm just going to hand over to Debbie, who's going to introduce herself.
Hello, I'm Debbie Boyes. I'm locality manager for Southampton, Hampshire, Isle of Wight and Portsmouth, and it's a pleasure to be here today. So the first slide that we're going to look at is thank you to the Care Workers Charity for inviting us to talk in Care Workers Charity Week. And we're going to be looking at well-being, which we'll introduce in a minute. So in terms of what we're going to be covering today, we'll be looking at well-being, what we're hearing, well-being, what we're doing, that we are listening. And then at the end, we'll be having a question and answer discussion. So if you could save your questions to the end, we'll have enough time for you to ask us any questions that arise during this presentation.
Perfect. Thank you, Debbie. So we're going to, oh, sorry, Debbie, that's
okay. So when we look at what we're hearing, we wanted to sort of, first of all, just have a look at what we mean by well-being, first of all, and then we're going to sort of discuss some of the things that you've been telling us at Skills for Care that shows that we've been listening to you. So well-being is such a wide-ranging subject and includes all of these sort of areas and categories from environmental, physical, psychological and social and among other things, cognitive and physical as well, which is up there. So these can affect us while we're working personally and while we're at work in many different ways. And some of which we'll be looking at in a little more detail during this presentation, but also how it affects us, how we work. And we wanted to cover that within this, the themes of what we're hearing, we're listening, and what we can do about it as well. So we know that stress and burnout are real issues for adult social care with the added challenges of the pandemic. Workforce wellbeing has never been so important. We also, through our productivity research, that a valued, engaged and supported workforce is more productive, has more satisfaction and provides better quality of care. And we also, it affects sort of our own, how we work and how we feel about work and how we respond and are resilient. But also there are times when we're not resilient. So we'll be discussing some of that during this session. Over to you, Lauren.
Great. So when we were sort of talking and planning for this session, one of the things that we really wanted to get across and kind of talk about is the central role that registered managers play in well-being within the workplace. I think from names that I recognise, we've got quite a few registered managers on the call or managers more generally, anyone in a sort of leadership role. At Skills for Care, we focus a lot of our support and resources around registered managers because we know that you're absolutely vital in terms of creating all of those factors and things that Debbie's spoken about that all play into well-being. So we've kind of tried to fit on a slide some of the different ways that registered managers support well-being in the workplace. I think we'd need many slides to kind of fill all of them, but these are some of the main ones. So understanding the needs of staff, so really getting to know and understanding staff, finding out what's happening in their lives, what they need in order to be to have good well-being in the workplace. Implementing policies, so registered managers play a huge role in looking and reviewing policies, thinking about what new policies could be introduced to really support well-being. Identifying and coordinating training and development, so a lot of what we do at Skills for Care is supporting managers to find learning learning and development opportunities for their staff, and register managers obviously play a big role in identifying what are those needs, how do people learn best, what development opportunities do they need, and that it could be specifically in relation to training such as mental health first aid training, but just generally, as the slides showed before, learning and development and a sense of progressing in your career is a big part of well-being. Being a role model, so modeling that self-care, compassionate leadership, being someone that staff can look up to, and sort of role modeling those values, team working, and kindness, all those things that contribute to a really positive workplace culture. Managing difficult conversations, so registered managers every day are having to deal with lots of difficult circumstances, talking to staff experiencing a whole range of different challenges and supporting them, and also just leading, managing conversations around productivity, around values in the workplace. So a lot of the resources and support that we offer is to help you as a manager to manage those difficult conversations and to really support that positive workplace environment. Nurturing teamwork and those working relationships. So we know that registered managers play a vital role in that, in supporting teams to work well, in modeling those values, like we've said, and enabling good teamwork, enabling good communication, and ensuring that all of the factors needed are in place to ensure that people can work well as a team and feel a sense of belonging and feel like they can thrive and be their best self at work. And creating that positive work environment. We know from speaking to frontline staff as well as registered managers that those managers and leaders play an absolutely vital role in creating that work environment. And as well, signposting staff. So I think particularly over the last couple of years, managers increasingly are having to be that signposting function for their staff, making sure that if staff are struggling with, whatever challenges, whether it's financial, whether it's health conditions, relationships, that staff registered managers are having to play that really vital role in being able to signpost people. So at Skills Care, we really try and support that, and we're going to be showing some of the resources that we have that you can use to help you make sure staff can access the right support that they need in whatever it is that they're facing. So I'm just going to hand over to Debbie, who's going to talk a little bit about what we're hearing at Skills for Care. And then during the rest of the session, we're going to go through how we're responding to that with the resources that we create.
Thank you, Lauren. So when we hear about the challenges that you as managers are facing, we at Skills for Care are acting in terms of trying to support you, which we will again be talking about later in the session, in terms of networking and hearing what you're saying. But these are some of the things that we've already heard through our networking meetings and through feedback from yourselves. So registered manager burnout, we've had a sort of quite a tough last few years with everything happening in events. So the manager is carrying the team in many instances, and also the staff, they feed back their stress and their anxieties to you as a manager, and just general working, sort of working in social care, supporting families. There's a lot to be dealing with as well. And this has had an impact on people's physical and mental health, and well-being is such an important aspect of care. We care so much about other people, but we need to also be caring about ourselves. And we hope that with our resources, we'll be able to signpost you to what's available, and also the work of the Care Workers Charity in supporting you with other aspects sort of in your personal life as well. So the cost of living, the impact on financial well-being, supporting staff with money management and debt. We've heard that there are carers and people using food banks, and also getting to work has become more expensive, not least the problems around housing and accommodation as well. Of course, this has a great impact on how we manage these pressures and what we do and what we've got in place to offset some of these things. in terms of our working life and also our personal life. We're also hearing about equality and diversity issues in the workplace, fairness, and also cultural and diverse difficulties that might not be, everybody deals with things in different ways, and it might be, they might deal with them culturally in different ways, or might deal personally. We're all different people, we all have different personalities, we all have different ways of dealing with things, and maybe we need to consider the whole of our workforce and the multicultural society we're in dealing with some of those issues, because they might not be the same issues that we ourselves find stressful. So the other aspect is more and more as recruitment and retention has come to the fore, especially recruiting people. More and more we're looking to our overseas workers for support, and we're finding that in some areas that the pastoral support, the other support outside of work, might not be as available as it could be. And we have Skills for Care produced resources to support this area of work. Our overseas workers are very important to us, as are all our workers, everyone who works in care. We are one family. Chronic conditions, some people are still suffering the effects of long COVID, chronic fatigue for working long hours. You may have been taking on extra shifts, which also is affecting your personal life in terms of looking after your family and caring for your loved ones as well. It may be that there aren't enough staff on, so you've had to sort of work additional hours that you hadn't factored in. And then, of course, over time, this does take a toll on your health. Wow. We're also looking at other areas. Our workforce does consist, the statistics tell us that the average care worker is female, age 42 plus. And although menopause can occur early, menopause is another factor that we're also sort of bringing into when we think about well-being. Think about male and female well-being, and menopause is one of the areas that we've had a particular sort of focus on recently. It's not something that's mentioned in the workplace very often, but it does certainly affect a vast majority of women experiencing it. And then the other aspect of where caring people, we generally probably also might be caring for other people outside of our work place, and that also has an impact on our sort of personal well-being. And also it's so important to think of yourself as well, make sure that you can get those access to help and support, but also that you have some time for yourself. It's very, very important that you do. So we gather in sector intelligence through all our networks that's about this, about the pressures that are about working in social care, and we hope that these resources will help you in some way. But this is what we're hearing about. So the next slide, please, Lauren.
Thanks, Debbie. It'd be really great as well if anyone on the call wanted to drop in the chat, does this reflect kind of what you're experiencing? Do you think there's anything that we've missed or anything that you think, yeah, that, that definitely resonates with me? I think that would be really useful just to hear from those of you on the call about, how this reflects your own experience. So I'm just going to talk a little bit about what we are doing in terms of the resources and support that we offer. So Skills for Care, we work across nationally, we work regionally, and we work locally. So Debbie and I are both part of our area teams. So I'm part of the Midlands team, so we work on a regional level, but I'm also working on a local level. So I cover Leicester, Leicestershire, Rutland and Northamptonshire. We also have a national work programme. So Skills for Care, we support the adult social care workforce on a national level as well. So we have projects, and one of those project work streams is wellbeing, and we have a whole range of different resources and projects that we're doing nationally. And we're going to talk a little bit about some of the resources that have come out of that work. But I'm also going to give a bit of an example from one of my areas about locally some of the work that we're doing to really support managers. So there's lots of different things that we're doing, from working with local staff wellbeing hubs, like I said, lots of resources to support you and to support your teams. But I think one of the other things that we really love to do, and is a big part of our work at Skills for Care, is actually sharing best practice and celebrating success. We're really always keen to hear about what's working well in your service. Have you implemented something that's had a really big impact? We're always very, very keen, and part of what we want to do today is really encourage you to let us know about those things that you're doing. And we're going to talk a little bit about the ways that we do share practice and help you learn from what's happening in other areas of the country. So firstly, I'm just going to talk a little bit about some of the work that I'm involved in doing in Northamptonshire. And I was really pleased, actually. I think we have some of the managers from Northamptonshire on the call, which is great. So please say hi in the chat if you are. But one of the things that all locality managers have been involved in is working really closely with the staff wellbeing hubs that have popped up over the last few years. So if you're not aware of these are hubs that have been set up by the NHS to support the whole health and social care system. So they now sit in our integrated care systems. In Northamptonshire, the wellbeing hub team is called Stronger Together. So they work across health and social care to support staff with wellbeing issues, particularly around mental health challenges that they're facing. And over the last 12 months, I've been working really closely with the Stronger Together team in Northamptonshire to really work out what is the best way that team can support social care colleagues. So when I first met with Stronger Together, they were very open and transparent about the fact that they they hadn't ever worked in social care. It was quite a new area to them. They didn't really understand much about how we're shaped as a sector and some of the challenges that are faced by managers and by colleagues. They were very open about that. So from day one, it was really about just supporting them to understand the sector and the sector needs, and to link in with registered managers and with people on the ground working in social care in Northamptonshire. And one of the ways that we were able to do that was linking Stronger Together in with our registered manager network. So we're going to talk a little bit more about our registered manager networks in this webinar, but just for now, they're basically networks where we bring together registered managers in a local area to create a peer-to-peer support network. They are chaired by registered managers, run by registered managers for registered managers. And the registered manager network in Northamptonshire, I'm really pleased to say, is really strong and thriving. We have a fantastic chair, so big shout out to Jane Borland if she's watching. And one of the things that we did really early on was connect the Stronger Together Wellbeing Hub in with the Registered Manager Network. And what we decided to do through these conversations was set up a pilot. The managers were really keen to learn around sort of compassionate leadership and some really practical tools that they could use to support their teams and to support their own wellbeing. And that was a big theme that came out of the pilot, was actually supporting themselves before trying to as well obviously support their teams. So what we did is we ran a 4-part compassionate leadership training course for registered managers. So the clinical psychologists at Stronger Together shaped that curriculum and they delivered that, but it was very much co-produced with our registered managers. So as they came along to the sessions, there was a lot of reflection, feedback, a lot of learning from Stronger Together. So asking lots of questions, finding out what do the managers need, what's going to really support them in their day-to-day role. And it was an absolutely fascinating, really valuable pilot. And out of that, we have developed a 6-part bi-monthly training course for registered managers, which is being led and funded by the Stronger Together team. So it's being led by clinical and counselling psychologists, and I'm supporting in the delivery of that. And as I said, it was completely co-produced. So the curriculum that they've kind of built and the sessions that they've designed came out of the top topics or questions that registered managers really wanted support with. So we've got sessions looking at having difficult conversations, managing supervisions, having really effective supervisions, keeping professional boundaries. But one of the big themes that came out of it was registered managers' well-being for themselves and having time out to really just reflect and have time to focus on their own well-being. So as part of the sessions that we'll be running, we'll be having a training session in the morning focused on a particular topic, but we'll also then have a reflective practice session in the afternoon, again led by the psychologists, and that will be a chance for the managers to get together in small groups and just share their experiences, talk about some of the challenges that they're going through, and really just get some facilitated time to really just kind of debrief and talk about you know, what's happening, and also do a bit of action planning and get some support with working out, you know, how can I move forward with this particular situation. So they launch at the end of this month, and that should be a really, you know, interesting, exciting, really keen, and I know we've got a really good feedback already from managers really keen to take part in those. So I wanted to sort of share this as a kind of case study of how we can work really practically on a local level to make sure that register managers have the support that they need. The local staff wellbeing hubs are working across the country, so if you're not linked in with your staff wellbeing hub, do get in touch with your locality manager, and we're going to tell you how you can do that, and they'll be able to tell you what's happening in your area. So it won't look exactly like this, but it might be linking you in with how you yourself and your staff can access free counselling. There might be different types of activities happening. So do get in touch with us, and we'll be more than happy, you know, to link you in with that and make sure that you're getting support. The wellbeing hub teams have been set up to support the whole health and social care sector, and I think, you know, our big passion is making sure that social care staff access this support equally and on the same level that health colleagues do. So that's definitely something that we're really passionate about and that we're working on a local level to do. So I'm going to hand over to Debbie, and she's going to go through some of the resources that we have available nationally so you can all access.
So in terms of how we've listened to you, we've produced some resources to support you in the workplace. And one of our more recent ones was 2 webinars on 5 ways to wellbeing. And you can find these on our website. So we take you through each area: the connect, be active, keep learning, give, and take notice. And these give you some practical ideas and applications that will work based on what people have told us that works in the workplace to support you and your staff and to keep going. Really lots of great ideas. We've also got the registered manager webinars, which are bite-sized webinars at half an hour, or usually only half an hour. And in those webinars, again, there are different sort of areas that we focus on. So we might be focusing on wellbeing support for manager. We might be focusing on wellbeing for staff. And we might be focusing on different aspects of well-being that can be supported in the workplace, and hearing about how managers have managed and coped through different situations. So by learning from others, it helps to maybe you could apply some of that learning in your own settings and organisations as well. We've also been working quite hard to produce other resources that can be used. And this digital wellbeing card is something that you can view on your phone. We've made it sort of mobile phone accessible. So, and it looks at sort of, it summarises some of the 5 ways to wellbeing sort of help, but it also gives you a sort of other ideas. It just gives you, hopefully gives you a space, as Lauren was talking about earlier, that little space to reflect and look at how to manage situations as they arise, but also think of other ideas around how you can incorporate these into your workplace. So one of the things that people sort of came back and said, oh, that's a really good idea, was the walking supervisions. So instead of having supervision in an office, we'd take the supervision and walk around the block, or just walk around the garden. Being outside, having some fresh air, doing a little bit of exercise, but also talking about important things that are important to your staff, actually help the conversation flow and And I think people found that quite a nice thing to do. And that's just one aspect of that. We've also, as Laura mentioned before, we've got local and regional networks. So each area up and down the country, up to the northeast and right down to Cornwall and the southeast, there is a locality manager supporting you within a network, and within that there are the registered manager networks. Now, some people think you have to be a member to join them. You don't. But we do like people to become members of Skills to Care, but you don't need to be a member to join a local network. And in those networks, as Lawrence mentioned, it's an opportunity for peer support from other registered managers going through similar things, challenges and successes, as well as you. And then as a locality manager, we will be signposting to local resources. And as again, Laura mentioned, the wellbeing hubs, I think being able to signpost to those at a local level makes it easier for people to access those resources if and when they're available to. And also that goes for learning and development. So you think, how does that impact on my wellbeing? Well, I hope that it emphasises that there is support available for you. You're not on your own doing this job. We are, as I mentioned before, a family that support each other as we support the people that we're looking after in our care. So another addition to our suite of wellbeing resources was the Wellbeing Resource Finder, which is a directory of all the support that's available nationally and locally. And this is where, when we're listening to you, if you have any ideas or any can let us know where you found really good sources of support, do send them in to us and we can add these to our Wellbeing Resource Finder so that everyone can benefit from those as well. So we regularly update our resources, so please do check them out. Thank you, Laura. So our offer to registered managers is that to join your local registered manager network, if you're not already a member, and you can find these on our webpage, you'll find the locality manager name, just email us and we'll add you to our group. There's also the registered manager Facebook group. And also, as I mentioned before, you can become a registered manager member, and that gives you additional benefits and access to discounts on a range of resources as well, which will further support your team. A good example of that is the good and outstanding CQC guide as well. But it is a means of being able to connect with other people who are doing a similar role. And in terms of well-being, that's got to be a good thing. We've also got the Access support line for any advice and guidance about workforce development. And also some registered manager networks also have a WhatsApp group. So registered manager networks tend to occur 3 to 4 times a year, and what happens in between. So we've got the Facebook group to support you, but we've also got the WhatsApp groups. And the WhatsApp groups acts as a peer support in terms of a manager might say, I've got this problem, what do you do about this? Or if you've got a guide or if you've got a policy that we can adapt, or what do you think about this? And you'll find that other managers will either have encountered that problem before or found a way of a successful way of tackling anything that's arisen. So you've got that additional support too. And then of course there's ourselves. So people like Lauren and I are in each of those areas. If there's any other sort of workforce problems or issues that you'd like us to, act as a sounding board or listen to, or we can signpost you to resources, because we work with all our partners in terms of locally and nationally as well. So we work with the local government association, and we work with other organisations such as the Care Workers Charity Trust as well. So if you want any more information about that, they're enclosed in the links in the slides, and you'll have this available in the recordings as well. Thank you.
Thanks, Debbie. So we're just going to talk a little bit now about how we're listening. And I think the big message that we just wanted to get out today really is to just talk to us, to get in touch. One of the big roles that we play as Skills for Care is just to be here to hear from you about what's happening in your service, what challenges are you facing, what you're experiencing. And it's our job really to take that back. And we're going to talk a little bit about some of the ways that you can talk to us and what we kind of do with that information, I suppose. So we wanted to start by just mentioning the National Wellbeing Group. So we're members alongside lots of different key partners. So you can see those on the slide. So we've obviously got the Care Workers Charity are on there, the Local Government Association that Debbie's mentioned, Department of Health and Social Care. We also have representatives from providers, and really importantly, we have representation from people with lived experience as well. So there's lots of key partners that come together at a national level to talk about wellbeing, to talk about what's happening on the ground, and strategically, what can we do? What do we need to do in order to address some of these challenges? So whatever we're hearing from you, whether that's through our Registered Manager Network, on the Facebook page, or you're getting in touch with us directly to have a conversation, we feed all of that information anonymously up through these channels, and it's all part of making sure that your voice is heard and that actually that information is taken into consideration, and we can obviously support with trying to make sure that you get the resources and the support, and that strategies are put in place nationally to try and address some of the challenges that we know are happening. So Skills for Care are really pushing and keen to make sure that workforce wellbeing is on the agenda. We talk to commissioners and policymakers and make sure that wellbeing is at the heart of all of these conversations, that we're talking about the importance of leadership and workplace culture, and working together with all of these key partners to help improve workforce health and wellbeing. But we can only do that by working with you and hearing from you about what you need, what's happening, what challenges you're facing. So what we also do alongside taking all that information, passing on challenges, talking about some of the really difficult issues that we're currently facing as a sector, is we love to share best practice and celebrate success. I think we can probably all agree on this call that this doesn't happen enough with social care. We know that there are lots of challenges, and the media, there's lots of sort of negative things out there, but what we try and really do is celebrate success, share best practice, and really acknowledge and recognise the incredible work that managers and leaders, as well as frontline care and support professionals, are doing across the country. So we do this in lots of different ways. You can head over to our website and find wellbeing stories. There are videos and blogs, managers talking about things that they've implemented. So we've got a little quote there from a manager talking about their approach to workplace wellbeing. You can also follow us on social media. So we're on LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, and we love sharing best practice and sharing success stories on there. But please do tell us. So in the same way we want you to get in touch and talk to us about some of the challenges you're facing, we really want to hear about the successes, hear about what achievements you've had in your service, and we will always look at ways that we can work with you to maybe, whether that's producing a blog or a podcast, and Debbie's going to talk a little bit about some of the different ways that you can get in touch with us and share that best practice. But celebrating success and spreading good news stories and celebrating what an incredible sector we all work in is a huge part of what we do at Skills for Care, and we really want you all to be part of that. So I'm just going to hand over to Debbie, who's going to talk a little bit about what we're hearing. Remember as well to put your questions in, so we will have a little bit of time for Q&A, so please do go ahead and put some questions in the chat for us. So I'll just hand over to Debbie.
So in terms of how you can contact us, so obviously via ourselves as locality managers, and joining your local Registered Manager Network group and sending us your success story. So a really good example, yesterday I was in Isle of Wight, and one of the sort of care providers was telling us about how successful the induction, their induction has been since they'd included a workplace mentor. So the person had been interviewed, successfully got the job, and then they were allocated a workplace mentor that could just see that they had everything they needed, and it was someone to ask all those questions to, that sometimes you don't want to ask the manager the question because you don't want to appear, as though you don't know stuff sometimes, although obviously as a manager you do want to know. But the mentor is kind of acts like a workplace friend, if you like. And also they were offering the opportunity for 3 counselling sessions outside of the workplace organisation during their first year working for the organisations. So that meant that they did, so if there was something that was concerning, it could be a work thing, it could be a personal thing, sort of juggling and trying to get into work, they had that opportunity to be able to talk to someone else without fear of, sometimes people don't want to talk about things because they're afraid they might lose their job, or they're afraid that people think they can't cope with things, and yet we all need someone to talk to. And I thought this was a really good example of really good practice. And we share that. So the other thing that's really important is we use the data via the adult social care workforce data set. And the benefit to us is that we gather intelligence about staff qualifications, about sort of recruitment, retention, and we use that data, as Lauren said, to feed back into the various organisations. And in particular, because we're part funded by the Department of Health and Social Care, we feed that information back to the department so that something can be done where there are particular issues that need further support from that level. But the benefit to you of the adult social care workforce data set, completing that, is you have access to funding for training and also support with the workforce training plan and workforce development, and developing your staff to give them confidence to do the job that they're doing is one way of supporting well-being. Because nothing worse than when you're doing the job and you're not really sure what you're supposed to be doing. It can be extremely stressful, and it's not helpful at all to the people you're supporting. So having a good workforce development plan, training plan in place is also one of the factors in the many factors that support well-being in the workplace. But the adult social care data set is a means of funding some of that training. So some of the training you might think about skills as a manager. There's so many skills that you need to have, but one of them areas that you might be wanting to look out for continuing professional development is you might want to look at mental health first aid, for example, or look at those other skills that you might need to support your staff to do well, and also to help you manage those situations that might arise in the workplace. So do have a look at our website and do have a look at that adult social care workforce data set. And that has a range of accredited qualifications, a list that you can claim funding against. And it may be that there are other things that would benefit your staff in terms of their well-being within the workplace setting as well. So please do get in touch with us on that. So we also have a dedicated team to support you, along with the locality manager ourselves, to help you access these resources and to make them work for you, as well as working for the benefit of all of us up and down the country. Thank you, Lauren.
Perfect. So we're going to we've got a bit of time for some questions now. So we've had one come in from Kath, which is a really good question actually, which is because we've used the term registered manager, and we've talked a little bit and mentioned sort of resources around CQC. So Kath's just asking, you know, are our resources and our support groups only open to CQC registered providers? So the answer to that is an absolutely no. So I don't know whether, Deborah, you want to expand a little bit on that and the fact that we obviously welcome people from all different types of services.
Yes, we do. So yes, so when we talk about CQ registered service, we're usually talking about people providing personal care, but of course there's other services that are providing social care that aren't regulated by CQC. So if you approach your locality manager and if you'd like to talk about your service and receive some support and use our resources, then by all means, please do contact us, where you wouldn't be excluded.
Absolutely. And I know for the areas that I cover, Kath, we have lots of different types of services. In my Leicestershire and Rutland network, we've got quite a few day services for adults with learning disabilities, so managers coming from there that get loads out of the sessions, really enjoy, you know, the speakers that we tend to get to networks are really wide ranging. So the last network that I went to, we had the local hospice coming to talk about some research they're doing. We had a diabetes training service come and talk about some of the free diabetes training. So really, you know, the networks are run by and for managers. So we use the term registered manager just because that is quite a recognizable sort of term, and so we do use that across the board, but absolutely. And similarly, the adult social care workforce data set and the workforce development funding is open to adult social care providers, even if you're not registered with the CQC. So as long as you are providing adult social care services, you will be able to access that. So definitely, we look forward to you definitely joining your local network, so do get in touch. So we'll just give a few minutes. If you have any other questions that you want to put into the chat, please do go ahead. I've got the question and answer screen open here. We did have one about will we receive the slides. We won't be sending the slides out, but like we said, this recording will be going onto the website, so you'll be able to watch it and share it. I would say as well, you know, head over to the Skills for Care website and look at some of the other events that we have coming up, because there might be other similar ones talking about specific sort of topics and things. So do have a look for those as well. But we'll just wait a couple more minutes just to see if we've got any other questions or comments that anyone wants to make. I don't know, Debbie, whether you can see the chat box. I've got the Q&A.
Yep, I'm looking at there's nothing in the chat at the moment, and we just got 2 questions. So please do check out the resources on the Skills for Care website. There are a range of resources, and also one of the other sort of groups of people that we haven't mentioned is the personal assistants. We've got a lot of information and support for people, individual employers of personal assistants as well. And of course, wellbeing is important for everyone working in care. So hopefully all of our resources that we do have, they can be adapted to the setting that you are, an organisation that you're working for. So and if you think that there's a gap or there's an area that we haven't covered in terms of a segment or of the workforce that we could do more, please do let us know about those things, because we want to hear from you, of course.
Absolutely. So I think what we'll do now is hand back over to Aisha, who's going to finish up the session. But thank you so much for inviting us. It's been really great. Apologies again for we had the technical difficulties at the beginning,
sorry.
But I think we smoothed through them. And these things always happen. You'd think after all these years of delivering virtually we'd be able to get but it never happens. The internet never lines up, the connectivity. But we've sailed through it, and I think Debbie and I will both be going to have a cup of tea for our well-being after this session before getting on. So thank you so much, everyone, for joining us, and thank you to the Care Workers Charity for arranging this incredible week, a really important week, and for inviting us to come and talk. It's been really lovely to share some of the stuff that we're doing, and we look forward to hearing from you all. So thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone, and we want to hear from you.